Cash Pod, Part 2.
Adam 22, academics, all them niggas, bro. Gimmicks.
We're in the Iron Age. We are in the Iron Age.
The industry is so fake.
Everybody, that's not even just the music industry. It's every industry. Everybody thinks industrial bullshit is how it's supposed to be. No, and no. How about you go out in nature and smoke some weed?
That shit is so fake.
Don't be a hippie. Don't be a communist, but
That shit fake, bro.
yeah.
But jump on this.
I think that's probably why people feel so fucking weird when they take shrooms. Because you're looking at everything that's fake. You're like, what the fuck is
about to
this?
drop it with the process. He's like, bro, whatever I gotta do, I get it done, like to be on the record, like, cause this is really me, like I'm feeling a connection to it.
Kanye resonated with the mixed personalities track, most likely because of his struggles with bipolar disorder, which Melly also admits he has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. They came together, filmed a music video with Cole Bennett, and it would ultimately get released. This is only the second SoundCloud artist that Ye collaborated with, before Donda. The other one was Lil Pump. So Melly just secured a ticket to superstardom with that feature. But just when things were looking great, a very, very dark day was around the corner. On October 26th, 2018, YNW Portland, whose real name is Cortland Henry, shows up to Memorial Miramar Hospital with 2 dead bodies in his car. The victims were both on the right side, front and back seat. They were the bodies of Anthony Williams, aka YNW Sack Chaser, and Christopher Thomas, aka YNW Juvie, Melly's 2 childhood friends. The vehicle had 8 shots on the right side and 1 through the back window. The police asked what happened, and Bortland said they were victims of a drive-by shooting. He said he left the New Era recording studio in Fort Lauderdale, drove west on 595, then south on 75, and exited on Miramar Parkway heading west. He said on Southwest 160th, a vehicle passed by on his right side and started shooting. He ducked down to avoid being shot, and when he sat up, he saw his friends bleeding out, so he drove to the hospital, which was conveniently right around the corner. After this report, the detectives and officers shut down the crime scene and walked 12 blocks on foot. Not a single report of gunshots, nor evidence of a shooting was found. Portland was tested for gunshot residue on his hands, but came back negative. The roommate, Dontavius Withers, of Sack Chaser and Juvie, was questioned by the police since he lived at their last known address. He said there were 2 cars when they left the studio, a gray Jeep, which is where the murder took place in, and a red Mitsubishi, which Withers said that he and Melly were in. He said he went straight home and found out later that his roommates were dead and didn't know where Melly was. But
I got confused. I got confused because I never actually heard someone named Dontavius. I've literally never heard that name before.
Dontavius.
He said there were 2 cars when they left the studio, a gray Jeep, which is where the murder took place in, and a red Mitsubishi, which Withers said that he and Melly were in. He said he went straight home and found out later that his roommates were dead and didn't know where Melly was. But it was later proven that Withers lied about the situation. Before police showed up, he was with Melly at Fredo Bang's house. Withers changed his story and said that Melly was in the Jeep when they left the studio, but then got into the Mitsubishi around Sheridan Ave when Withers Snapchatted him to pick him up. Police obtained...
Wait, is it demons? Who's demons? Or demons? Wait, I know it's not Melly.
That is Melly.
His name is actually like...
Demons.
I think his name is Demons.
Ain't no way.
Security footage from the manager of the recording studio, which proved Melly left in the gray Jeep.
You were not
he got into the back left seat.
Bro, all I heard was Dontavius, and then I lost... I like, literally wasn't paying attention. I was like, Dontavius. Like, what the fuck? There's really people named Dontavius?
Victims were in the front right and back right seats. Cell phone records show that Withers went straight home without stopping, so Melly never entered the Mitsubishi. When police investigated the Jeep, they found one .40 caliber shell casing on the floorboards where Melly was sitting. It was inside a white plastic bag. If this was a drive-by, there would not be shell casings inside of the car. This supports evidence that shots occurred from inside of the car. Police were able to obtain T-Mobile cell phone records that track their locations minute by minute. These records show that Melly, Portland, Sack, and Juvie were all in the car together at the time of the murder. They did
That's why they
confirm
put
that
in
the
that
Jeep
much
exited
effort.
on Miramar
I don't
Parkway,
know,
but
man.
turned north on Southwest 184th and then
You could also
west
say
on
that, like,
Pines
why did he kill
Boulevard
his
at
best friend? Yeah, that's
353
the police
and then
showing
turned
him.
back east at
Why would the
406.
police get to
This is
him?
enough
Because
time
all
to
the
make
bullshit
it
he's
all the
doing?
way to the outskirts of the city where nothing is around and back. The cell phone records also
What?
show that they were driving around the area west of I-75 before arriving to the hospital at 4:35.
Figuring out something
Melly's
to do.
cell phone was separated from the car at 4:32, just 3 minutes before the Jeep arrived to the hospital. This is where people are assuming that Melly and Bortland were trying to get their story straight, driving around the city, and then ultimately Melly hopped out before Bortland took them to the hospital. Melly then FaceTimed his girlfriend,
Wow,
saying that they
that's-
were a victim of a
that's
drive-by and he needed to be
That's
picked up,
actually
which
grimy.
confirms that he was at the scene of the crime. So police knew that there were a lot of conflicting statements from witnesses, and even some straight-up lies. They needed to conduct this investigation immediately. The next day when the news broke, YNW Melly took to Instagram and Facebook to grieve publicly, claiming that they took my brothers from me over jealousy. Melly proceeded with his career as usual. He released a documentary on his YouTube channel on December 4th, which featured Sack Chaser and Juvie, and a little bit about how close they were growing up. It also featured a section about how obsessed with guns Melly was. At the end of the documentary, it stated that 4 days after the completion of this film, YNW Melly and his friends were a target of a drive-by shooting. Then the Genius video dropped of Melly explaining the lyrics to his hit song Murder on My Mind, where he describes his love for guns and says he isn't a human murderer.
To murder. I murdered and I murdered a bee. I am not no human murderer.
But on January 3rd, 2019, he was
Well, I tell you,
arrested in
man.
Florida on
Bro,
Range
What I tell you?
it irritates me so much.
But on January 3rd, 2019,
Why
he
is
was
it
arrested in
always
Florida on
us?
weed charges. His sinister smiling mugshot went
Nigga,
viral.
that's-
Just
you
3
can't
weeks
say
later,
us,
while
that's
he
in
was still
Florida,
locked
nigga. You
up,
know Florida
mixed
niggas is crazy.
personalities
I don't
dropped
wanna sound
with a
racist,
lyrical lemonade
bro. I
video.
hated
This was a
myself, but
huge
black
moment for
people,
Melly
bro.
and
Why
Cole
is it
No,
Bennett,
bro.
as Kanye was
White
the first
niggas is
veteran
crazy too, you
superstar
tripping.
I
rapper he
feel
had
you,
worked
but
with at that point.
look at
The
how he
song
hurting
went
his own
mega viral,
people for
and Melly's
status
fame
and all that.
exploded. This was
You
the
would think
first
he'd be
time a
wanting to
lot of
hurt the
people
white
had heard of him.
people.
He was
White
about to
people do
become
the
a
same thing.
mainstream
Should,
artist, but on February
This is weird as
13th,
fuck. Why do we
just
hurt
less
ourselves?
than a month later,
You
the
niggas do
investigation
that shit,
concluded,
bro. That shit
and a
retarded.
warrant for his arrest for the
Damn.
murder of his 2 friends was now official.
The
He
Florida-
immediately
you-
turned
you
himself
look
in
at the Florida
despite
news,
claiming
bro.
his innocence. 2 weeks
Something
later,
crazy
evidence
every
against
day,
Melly
bro.
was released. Police discovered that YNW Portland lied about where the crime actually took
Niggas
place.
two-faced.
Police
Look how the niggas looking, bro.
investigated the
Niggas
crime
two-faced.
scene
Niggas is
on
crazy, bro.
Southwest
I'm telling you, bro.
160th Street, which is where he reported
And
the
you can't,
drive-by
it's not
happened.
even like,
But the dog found
you can
nothing.
even like,
Damn,
Officers
Patrick.
Not saying they
investigated
deserve
the
to
Nigga
die.
probably got a
area
song in a
that they
notebook in
thought
prison
maybe was the crime
because
scene, and the canine found some
I'm not saying
evidence.
that
The
they
dog
deserve to die,
discovered
but they all
8
did some
40 caliber
bad shit,
shell
bro.
casings and 2 types
Mm.
of glass that matched the front
YNW Melly,
passenger
man.
window of the
That
Jeep.
whole-
Your
So
music
now
is
they know
good,
the
but it's
crime
because
scene
you
is
been
not even
chanting
close to
niggas.
where it was reported. This
Fuck,
prompted them
man.
to investigate the vehicle